This is going to be a film study video where I attempt to talk about how the Ravens have had to change course or alter direction throughout the 2023 season as they adjust to losses, specifically to the running back group. We were also excited to get J.K. Dobbins back. The whole training camp situation where he's not practicing and then comes back and performs exceptionally well, I thought, against the Texans in week one, and then, of course, suffers an injury and is out for the season again. Keaton Mitchell kind of explodes on the scene and adds this element to the offense that we never considered, I think, that we would have, even with J.K. Dobbins, who was a fantastic running back that averaged 6 yards per carry pretty much at every level, including the NFL prior to this year. I think last year he was close in 2022, 5.8. And then Keaton Mitchell comes along and just blows that out of the water. I think he's averaging 8 yards per carry, tremendous amount of big plays. Adds a flavor to the offense that you almost feel guilty about having from a running game standpoint. You think big plays are going to be generated in the pass game, and Keaton Mitchell it was almost like a pass play when handing the ball off to him. I was on Coach Evans or Sip Tatawi's show earlier this week. It was really fun, a great time. I'll try to link it up here in the description if you guys didn't get a chance to listen. It's all podcast types material when we collaborated there. This time we didn't watch any film, but he was just talking about how, hey, just a simple inside zone to Keaton Mitchell, he can take it to the house. And that's so true. It almost feels like you're throwing the ball 40 yards down the field just by simply handing it off to a running back. It's a safe way to possibly generate big yardage. And then he goes down just as quickly as we were starting to utilize him more consistently. 10, 12, 14 touches a game. But one thing that I've noticed this season with this Ravens team, the entire team, but specifically the offense, is that when one guy gets hurt, the coaches and the players that are there adjust. And things just keep on rolling, especially on the offensive side as it relates to the running backs. We do have 2,400 rushing yards. I think 485 rushing attempts or 486. So we're right at 5 yards per carry. The Ravens and the Dolphins are the only two teams in the league averaging 5 yards per carry, which is pretty unique that they're getting ready to play this week with the number one seed in the AFC up for grabs. I'm going to focus on one element here that became a lot more clear after watching film of the Dolphins last night. Keaton Mitchell brought that different level of danger to the defense when he had the ball in his hands, regardless of screen, inside zone, outside zone, counter option, whatever. There's a different level of danger for the defense. Now, last game, obviously we didn't have him. He played against the Jags, 72 yards or something like that. Him and Lamar combined for 170 on just 21 carries. Really distinct difference between what him and Lamar were able to do on the ground against the Jags versus Gus and Justice Hill. This week, without Keaton Mitchell, Monken brought out a new personnel group, a new formation. I'll show 3 plays from it. And I want to use it to kind of as a platform to show the different ways that our running backs can still generate chunk opportunities for the offense. Maybe not from the standpoint of Keaton Mitchell with some home runs, but maybe a whole bunch of doubles and triples. In that analogy, a double or a triple is a 20-plus yard gain on the ground or in the pass game. So the new personnel group and the new formation that I noticed, at least, was Gus and J.K. being on the field at the same time with Patrick Hart. So I call it 30 personnel. Now, it's not a 30 personnel formation, but formation isn't personnel. Personnel is what it looks like in the huddle. So who's on the field? And then formation is where they line up. So they're two totally separate things. Ricard, however, is lined up as a tight end, which is part of the reason why Monken is doing this. Additionally, the guy who he has lined up to the field in the slot is Zay Flowers, probably our best screen player this year, the guy who's gotten the most screens thrown to him. And certainly part of the game plan against the 49ers was to force them to defend horizontal stuff where he kind of bubbles out to the sideline, whatever you want to call it. And with the personnel group that we have on the field, you're getting a base defensive look by the 49ers. In this case, that's their will linebacker apexed out between the tackle and the number 2 defender. And I think Lamar had 2 plays here. I think he had 2 plays called, and he could check to either one of them. I mean, hell, there might have been 3 plays called here, but I think it's an illustration of what Monken is doing. Some people say, give Lamar keys to the offense. I really think more of it is just putting the defense in conflict by the width of the formation. So here you have a power run side of the formation, Gus, Justice Hill, and Patrick Ricard. And then down here, you have a Twins side of the formation, certainly a pass threat. When I say apex, what I mean is the will linebacker is basically equidistant from the tackle and the number 2 receiver, either in a triangular pattern or 2 right angles. So he's at the midpoint between Zay Flowers and Morgan Moses. That's what I would call apex. So in terms of what we're doing over there, we're running zone scheme to the boundary. And I think it's a brilliant usage of our personnel. Gus is basically playing fullback. Ricard is basically playing tight end. And we've got a guy here in Linderbaum who's just special on these zone schemes. He is. He gets out to people in a manner that every other offensive lineman in the league can't recreate. I'm not saying he's the best in the league at this, but he's pretty damn close in terms of taking people over, getting horizontal movement, and letting the running backs either hit it front side or cut it back downhill. Same play, end zone angle. I'll let you guys see it. Look, this is just another way that Monken has been able to get the ball to the running backs and be a little bit creative 3 times a game in this case. I suspect that we could see this more, depending on the week, because you're getting the defense's base defense on the field, base personnel group on the field. So you're kind of eliciting a particular look from them, and you can control coverage looks based upon the formation. Pre-motion, Justice Hill is out here as a trips receiver, so you've got 3 to the field. 49ers kind of understood what was going on. They kept their 2 safeties to the safety and corner to the boundary. You got a 3 technique, a 7 in Chase Young, who's trying to disrupt the scheme there by stepping inside, gives up the edge horribly, from the standpoint of leverage. Fortunately, the boundary side safety and Chase Young were still able to get involved for them. Limits Justice Hill to about a 5-yard gain. These guys, look, Gus, J.K., even Melvin Gordon, have provided some big play ability during the year. These three plays I'm showing you are not illustrations of that. I'll get to that a little bit later in the film. Again, I'm using this as a platform. Last week, we only had 102 yards rushing, and that does concern me. But granted, we're going against one of the best defenses in the league. I do think that this particular usage of our personnel is interesting to me. Same formation, basically. The running back is to the boundary, Gus, along with the tight end, Ricard, who's really a fullback playing tight end. But watch the effort that Linderbaum gives you trying to get out to Fred Warner. Same look, except now the 49ers are in a nickel personnel group. You can see the nickel defender is going to blitz off screen to our right in case Lamar keeps it. It's a great effort by Bosa to still get involved in this, try to expand outside. Gus is kicking out the corner, trying to. Ricard working up to the front side backer. And this is Linderbaum, our center, diving out to try to get as much of a piece of Warner to keep him away. It's a very short gain. I think it's like a 3-yard gain, maybe 4. And then the last illustration of this one is gonna look slightly different because Gus is on the, quote, wrong side. He's set up to the field now. So there's a little bit of a giveaway here for the 49ers, but you can see they're not necessarily focused on that element of it. You still have the will linebacker apexed between the tackle and OBJ. I do think he's a little bit closer, thatched to the – I think his alignment now is basically off of the DN to this side. So I think he's basically thatching his alignment stacked off of that D end, and then Lamar responds with throwing the screen out to the twin side where OBJ and Zay Flowers are. I don't think it's just going to be run to the boundary or a screen out here. I think these are just the initial plays we're seeing out of this. My suspicion is there's probably 2 or 3 more plays off of this. Of course, anytime you see a running back a running back set up to the side of Lamar and another guy back here, you think pistol option. Well, this is where it'll get really interesting with Gus Edwards' usage because he has not been a part of the read as a fullback at all. He has usually been the tailback in pistol option dating back to 2018 and 2019. I wonder if we're going to see a pistol option where Gus is the guy dual reading a defensive end opposite of the option read. The other way that we could do this is to run counter option and read that guy. So what would happen is the left guard and left tackle would pull. We would absolve Gus of having to read it like Mark Andrews, like Nick Boyle, like Pat Ricard, like Isaiah Likely. And what he would do is he would loop around. It's basically an arc release, except he's in the backfield, and he would go get the frontside inside linebacker. Lamar would read this defender here. So it would basically give Gus remove the responsibility of him to read it. Justice Hill would be downhill. It's counter, so following the left tackle, left guard on the pull, and it will be Lamar's job to read this guy to either give it to Justice Hill or keep it, and once he does keep it, he would be running around the edge behind Gus Edwards' block. It's very similar to stuff he's done with Boyle, Likely, Andrews, and Ricard for years. That's why I mentioned that. So one way to add another element to this is to remove Gus from having to read some of those things that other guys have for years. Skip forward a little bit, my apologies. So that's the 3 plays from 30 personnel from Monday. I suspect there's at least 2 other plays in there. That counter option play is one that I would expect to see soon, maybe perhaps in a playoff situation once we get those guys back there together. All right, another way that running backs have been threatening. Now, we haven't necessarily hit a big play off of this other than week 4 against the Browns, and I will show you that one, is wheel routes out of the backfield. You had 2 this week against the 49ers where I thought were open and available. This is an early incompletion to Zay Flowers, a ball that, we'd like to see Zay Flowers catch. I think this is a little bit behind Zay, but that's not the point of the video. The point is that on the backside of bunch or the backside of trips, you're generally going to get man, and then the backside safety is going to be responsible for a vertical route by 3 coming from the field. Well, number 3 is Ricard. So you're not going to get a vertical by him because he's not a tight end who's going to do that. You're going to get some other type of vertical perhaps from Likely or Flowers. In this case, we're getting levels concept from Flowers and then a deeper delayed in. But you can see the boundary side safety is totally oriented towards Lamar and the bunch side. Not saying this is where the football should go, saying that this is available to us. And we've been utilizing this all year. It's week 16. Here's my point. It's week 16. The 49ers are extremely high-level defense. And twice in this game, we have running backs open on wheel routes. This is what teams are going to do. They're going to say, we're going to play man, and we're going to make you beat us in that matchup. We recall, and I'll show you here in a moment, week 9 against the Seahawks, 2 guys being available for the wheel. Lamar puts the ball in very catchable locations, and for whatever reason, we're not able to come up with it. Keaton Mitchell and then Justice Hill. Earlier in the game, I actually have this backwards chronologically, but you can see again the ball is on the right hash, bunch to the field. So you're going to get man down here to the bottom side. On the X receiver, OBJ, he kind of snags it up, but this is just a pick route. And we are absolutely wide open. This is over if we can get this ball to him. But Lamar has converted a 3rd down to Zay Flowers by choosing to go over there, which is the correct read. So there's no complaint about it. The point is, even though we're in week 16, this is how teams are going to defend it. They're going to play man to the backside a bunch, and this wheel route is expertly used, if you ask me, by Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson. We haven't hit big things on it yet, other than that 3rd down completion against Melvin Gordon in week 4. We had some opportunities that we were unable to take advantage of. I misspoke a while ago. This is Keaton Mitchell's incompletion against the Browns. There is a little bit of contact downfield that, for whatever reason, the referees choose not to call by number 44. I mentioned this in a film study video that week. We're not getting a corresponding pick or rub or screen at all from Zay. Consequently, 44 is able to stay with him a little bit more. It also helps that he's grabbing or at least impeding him here, kind of like a hand check in basketball. Keaton Mitchell unable to come up with the catch. I think Taki actually got his hands on it. So a week earlier against the Seahawks, Justice Hill, again, no corresponding pick at all. Justice Hill is kind of selling it a little bit, which you saw in the 49ers game on the first one I showed you. He kind of sells that he might bring this route back to the inside. He might break it to the sideline. In this case, he takes it up the field on a wheel, basically a layered vertical release behind Bateman's go. And unfortunately for us, we're unable to come up with the catch. I think Lamar put the ball right where it needed to be in both of those situations, very catchable. This is one of the most beautiful throws of the year. But again, ball on the left hash, bunch to the field. So bunch B in the terminology that I constantly tell you guys. And you got man and man here. All kinds of terminology that people use in football. Some's more simple than others. Perfectly placed throw to Melvin Gordon on a wheel to beat JOK. You can see the screen or pick nature of it. He doesn't actually maybe even touch JOK, but he forces him to go underneath. JOK is also trying to grab here. So even though we don't have Keaton Mitchell, we can still generate, quote, chunk plays with these guys. Some of it by scheme, some of it by understanding or knowing that defenses are going to cover us in a certain way with the ball on one hash or the other. So another way, obviously, screens. Gus and Justice Hill are our two remaining guys. Obviously, Keaton Mitchell, who gets this screen here against the Browns, is no longer going to be able to play this year. But check this out for Gus and Justice Hill. 32 catches on 37 targets this year. Now, Justice Hill, I believe, is only averaging like 6 yards per catch. Gus is a little higher because he's got the 81 or 82-yard catch that I'll show you here in a minute against the Lions. He's also got a 39-yarder against the 49ers this past week. So his yards per catch is going to be a little inflated from what it looks like he's doing on a per-catch basis. Huge screen here against the Browns that gets called back. I've shown this. I think our screens have been inconsistent. We'll put it that way. However, vastly improved over what we threw out there, basically threw up offensively as screens in 2021 and 2022. I didn't think we were effective with those things at all because we weren't committed to them. These things look like we're committed to them. The screens to Zay Flowers, the screens out of empty, particularly against stick split zero, like Nelson Aguilar caught in week 6 against the Titans, and the screens to the running back haven't always been fruitful in terms of generating a ton of yards. This one clearly did, just got called back for a hold. Additionally, another way that we've been able to get the ball to running backs is unscheduled stuff out of the backfield. Now, the routes are there, so it's a check down if people want to call it that. It's late in the progression, whatever you want to do. This is against San Francisco. This is Gus here, release into the left side. And the awareness level of Gus Edwards in these situations is very underrated. I'm going to show you 4 plays here, all four of which, I think are examples of his awareness level, his ability to adjust during the play. I'm not going to say we didn't know that he could do this. We didn't see this offered in previous iterations of the Ravens offense that he's been with this franchise. 39-yard catch, nearly takes this to the house. Give you the end zone angle of the same play. You can see he's lined up to the boundary. 21 personnel, so Ricard and Likely is on the field with Gus, so 21 personnel. After releasing to kind of help out, I did think that there was a lot of time for Lamar on, I don't know, let's say 65, 70% of his pass drops the other night. It didn't seem like the 49ers were generating consistent pressure. Now, I don't know what the QB pressures look like according to some of the rating services. I think pressures is a very murky stat to rely on no matter who's kicking it out to you. What is a pressure? How is it defined? In any case, I thought Lamar had an ample opportunity to get the football to guys. In this case, he gets it to Gus late after extending the play a little bit. We all know that he's had the big catch against the Lions, but this one's underrated for me, man. This is a second down, and long against Arizona. Lamar ends up being forced out of the pocket or getting out of the pocket, escaping to his left side, the top side of the screen. And again, Gus is released to the opposite side of where he actually catches the football. That's a consistent theme in all of these catches. The one against the 49ers, all the catches I'm going to show you. The one against the 49ers, he released to the other side. Lamar found him, very similar to this one, except Lamar didn't shovel it against the 49ers like he did here. In all of these examples, he's releasing to the opposite side and then coming back across the field, and Lamar is finding him. I think he only has 12 catches on 13 targets. Justice Hill has 20. Could we do this more? Could we do this 3, 4, 5 times a game? I don't think we need to, think the point is that Gus and Justice Hill is available for these things. Gus, to me, looks a little bit better on this stuff than Justice Hill. Justice Hill looks a little more effective or potentially dangerous on screens. Let me put it to you that way. End zone angle, same play. It's a little bit slightly different from the previous ones that I've shown you. I still would say that, Gus is releasing to the side, but he's going inside. He's not going to the far side, outside the box, if you will. He's releasing through either A or B gap and then bringing his route back underneath the zone. Lamar finds him. He's got 12 catches on 13 targets, career high in catches, to my knowledge. Same for Justice Hill, career high in catches. I think we're going to need every yard that these guys can give us in the pass game, in unscheduled stuff, on screens, because I don't think our running stats for the year are realistic. And that sounds wrong the way that I said that. But number one, Lamar has a huge impact on our rushing stats. He does. Number two, Keaton Mitchell busting so many big runs, I don't want to say has inflated our rushing stats, but it's certainly made them look more effective consistently than they are. And I'm not saying that Gus and Justice Hill can't be effective, can't have an impact. I think that, look at the rushing stats against the 49ers. We had 102 rushing yards, and Lamar had 45 of them. These plays, screens, the unscheduled pass stuff, we need as much of it as we can get. And I think that that's the design of the offense, meaning it's not the design of the offense for us to do these things consistently. It's been practiced. It's practiced. It's there. It is a part of the offense. Now, this is just Lamar making a ridiculous play, having great vision, and finding Gus through, an insane throwing lane or just over the top of it. The unscheduled stuff underneath is a wild card. The screens are, saying wild card is the wrong term, or the wrong phrase, because it's intentional by Monken. He came in and installed screens. He came in and had us execute them. And there's been times where we haven't been very good. There's been times when they have borne fruit. And I showed you a couple of them here. The wheel routes out of the backfield. Those are, if you ask me, collectively wild cards that can get us to the numbers we need in terms of chunk plays, overall yards, that'll alleviate Lamar somewhat from having to do so much in the run game. I don't know that with the current personnel we have right now that we can generate 250 rushing yards like we did against the Jags. To me, the ceiling of the total number of yards, the yards per carry, was way higher when we had Keaton Mitchell and Lamar back there. Not every play, but rotating Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, and Gus Edwards for multiple reasons. To keep guys fresh in the game, number one. Number two, to keep guys involved so that if someone gets hurt, which unfortunately Keaton Mitchell did, the other two guys have been playing, they've been asked to execute in-game situations. So that's one of the benefits of rotating players, whether it's running backs, whether it's your offensive tackles, whether it's DNs, linebackers. It's one of the benefits of rotating guys. It keeps more players engaged, keeps more players having an impact, having a role, so that if someone goes down, unfortunately, those guys are a little bit more prepared. I think the design, the plan of Monken's offense is more diverse in the pass schemes, the run concepts. Yes, he's carried over some run concepts from Greg Roman. There's no doubt. He's also had some that were using more inside zone and outside zone than Greg Roman pretty much ever did. And the screens, the wheel routes to the running back, I think, give us more options. They give Lamar more options when we line up to say, okay, I like this matchup here. Let me go to it. You saw two wheel routes open, one of them wide open against the 49ers. I'm sure the Dolphins saw that too. If they play the same coverage to the boundary, that wheel route is an option for Lamar. Whether it'll be open or not, whether we complete it or not, I don't know. But the point is, I think the point of hiring Todd Monken, the point of signing OBJ, drafting Zay Flowers, bringing in a Keaton Mitchell, a UDFA, was to give Lamar more options to be a playmaker, facilitator. Those two things sound like they're not synonymous, playmaker and facilitator. It sounds like game manager versus whatever the hell people are talking about now. I think it's a boring conversation because in game, Lamar can be both. He can facilitate, quote, game manage because of the scheme, the tactical advantages we have by what Todd Monken is doing, the totality of the offense. And then he can make plays like you saw finding Gus Edwards, who seems to be a guy that's underrated in terms of adjusting to the play when Lamar extends it and finding open space, oftentimes opposite his initial release. So you guys let me know what you thought of the video. First of all, the 30 personnel grouping that Monken revealed this week, I do expect to see some more stuff out of it, including a counter option to the boundary where Lamar is keeping it behind Gus, who's basically arc releasing to the field. And then the screens, wheels, and unscheduled stuff, we're going to need as much of that as possible if this Ravens team wants to get to their ultimate goal. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this content, this film study look at the Ravens running backs and how they've had to change course and adjust over the course of the 2023 season, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it on social media to help this content get more reach.